Hey there, folks. This is Jay Frost speaking to you from, of course, the Philanthropy Mastermind series, brought to you by our friends at DonorSearch. And we probably won't be talking much about DonorSearch today. So I first wanted to thank them for their generosity in sponsoring this series going back to 2016. We have had close to 575 sessions in that time. Many of them are recorded and available to you over at the DonorSearch site at donorsearch.net. You can learn all about that there. And you can see many of these recordings under the resources tab, as well as our entire schedule for what's coming up next, including sessions next week. But do not leave because you might get a recording later. This is your opportunity, of course, to gather up that credit that you want for your CFRE, but also to learn from one of the best on a topic that's really important to you this year and every year about giving days. I'm going to be introducing our guest today to you in just a moment. But before I do that, I want to encourage you to make use of two things we have available to you right now. That's the chat and the Q&A. And while you have probably been to your share of webinars in the past, I want you to know that this invitation is really an open one. We really do want you to be able to engage. Your questions are really critical to this process, but also we just want you to know that we're here and we're all human. So please start by just saying hello. I know our guest would love to know where you're coming in from today and maybe which part of the country you're from, and so forth. So please do just say hello and maybe which organization you're with. We would love all of that information as we dive into the subject today. And now, of course, we're going to be talking about Giving Days and with Giving Days, the marketing plan for Giving Days. And to do that, it's really a pleasure to welcome back to the series Emily Heck. Emily is the head of president, I should say, of Evergreen Strategic Communications. She's been working in the field for a number of years. She launched Evergreen back in 2019 with the goal of helping nonprofits, educational organizations, faith-based organizations, et cetera, who may not have the time, resources, or skill set to grow their engagement through marketing. We were talking a little bit before the session today about the real and practical implications of that, which she may weave into her training today. In addition to the work that she does at Evergreen, of course, she has a record of working with organizations large and small in the past, ranging from Crossroads of America Council, Boy Scouts of America, to Butler University. So it'll be a pleasure to see her talking about the context of Giving Days in both educational institutions and perhaps non-educational institutions, since it's something so central to so much of our work today. So with that, thank you so much, Emily, for being here today and for sharing.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be with you all. I'm excited to be back in the donor search world and with you, Jay. And I love all of the content you've all created. As a marketing consultant myself, nonprofit marketing consultant, I soak it up daily. And so I'm just really excited to be back with you all. So I'm going to share my screen here for the presentation, but feel free to jump in on any questions or anything you may have. I will not be offended if you interrupt me, and welcome much discussion. So as Jay said, I'm here to talk about using a marketing approach to your giving days. Just a little bit about me. As Jay said, I'm the founder and president of Evergreen Strategic Communications. We are a marketing agency that serves nonprofit, education, and faith-based organizations. And the reason that we serve those organizations is because that is where I started my career many years ago, and worked in the youth development nonprofit space with the Boy Scouts of America here in Indiana, and then also in the higher education space for Butler University and advancement marketing. So fundraising marketing was my primary role when I was at Butler. And since that time, I started Evergreen in 2019, in November of 2019, and we know what all happened in 2020. So that has been an exciting 5 years. Over that time, we have served a huge range of nonprofits, from youth development to arts and culture to social services. So we have the whole gamut nonprofits we serve, but what really it all comes down to is a giving day can fit into any nonprofit, whether it be education, social services, youth development, education, or excuse me, faith-based. They can all benefit from from a giving day. And just to give you a frame of reference, I am based here in Indiana, and serve mostly Midwest clients. And Indianapolis, I actually live south of the city. My husband and I just recently left urban life to move to South Central Indiana to get out into the country, and we are enjoying it very much. So why use a marketing approach to giving days? There is a reputation among marketing and fundraisers that marketing and fundraising do not get along. It is like oil and water. So a lot of times people say to me, fundraisers say to me, I don't want to deal with the marketing department. We have all been there. And when I was working at Butler, I was that person that was the go-between between marketing and fundraising. But with that said, fundraising has drastically changed. Marketing has drastically changed. Nonprofits have drastically changed. I mean, we are all seeing the articles from the Chronicle or other philanthropic media outlets that nothing could have predicted really the past 4 years in giving with nonprofits. How people give has changed. We all are dealing with an aging donor pool right now versus younger donors who have drastically different giving expectations, but also giving styles. We're dealing with different donor expectations in terms of a competitive branding environment. Long are the days that a grassroots nonprofit can just finagle together a logo or a brand and not seem competitive. Your volunteers, your donors expect you to have the same level of branding or appearance as some of the other nonprofits. And I threw some stats up here to share with you. 24% of millennial donors have given to a cause after learning about it on social media, which is wild. That a quarter of a generation is giving just after seeing an organization on social media, and that really is accustomed to the term we all love, crowdfunding. Because they're used to mobilizing rapidly. They're a generation that has had a lot of world events where mobilizing rapidly has occurred, whether that be a hurricane or some other traumatic event that donations are needed. So it is a generation, a younger generation that is ready to give. But at the same time, this actually just came out a few weeks ago from the Chronicle of Philanthropy. Digital giving dropped drastically in 2023. So for every 1,000 emails that nonprofits were sending in 2023, they were only raising $76, which the lift on sending an email is not that much. But when you really think about it, 1,000 emails versus $76 is not that much. We've all sent mailed solicitations, and you think of 1,000 mailed solicitations, you're definitely going to raise more than $76. So what my point is with all of this is you need to activate your marketing team early because it allows them to build a holistic strategy that will support your fundraising strategy. We have a lot of tools in our marketing toolbox that can support your fundraising strategy. And I want to make sure that I really hone in on that. Marketing is here to support your fundraising strategy with giving days. And that is really the role marketing is serving in this situation. And I think that's where a lot of the oil and water and tension began. But I think bringing the two together, we can really find a good balance between the two. So I want to start with the basics of where we need to go with a giving day. When I'm sitting down with a client and they're talking to me about a giving day, here are some of the questions that first pop in my head that we need to go over before we even begin talking about the marketing strategy. What is your giving platform? It must be well tested. The simpler for the donor, the better. We all know that. Those are the basics of fundraising right now, especially online fundraising. I was talking with a client the other day that want to get kiosks for an event that someone can just swipe their credit card and make a small, $5, $10 donation at a time. And as we were talking about it, I was asking her questions about that platform and the risks of the system crashing or something happening during the event, who is going to be the tech support during that event was just too great that we need to find a different solution. So make sure it's well tested and you don't risk an embarrassing crash during the middle of your giving day. The other thing that I ask a lot is we need to create rallying points for your giving day. People are more likely to give if they know what they're giving to rather than this ambiguous pot of money. That is why things like food pantries do, if you donate $5, it will feed a family for 2 weeks. Or if you donate $100, it builds a house in overseas for a family in poverty. And so that allows the donor to visualize what their dollars are directly going to. And so that is incredibly important for giving days, that we create those opportunities or those challenges that the marketing can come in and create a strategy around. So I have 2 examples here. One is for a school of business challenge that they had on a giving day. This is for a collegiate giving day. And it was 100 gifts to the Career Development Fund will unlock $5,000 to support the Career Mentors Program. And so you can see there at the bottom under that paragraph, it says 100 of 100 gifts was met. And so when a donor went to that giving platform, they could see where they were on the challenge. Do I need to give because we're only at 10 gifts thus far? Or are we completed and I should make a gift to another fund? And so it creates a sense of competition. And then it also allows us as marketers to have something to play with throughout the day. And then you can see there on the right, another example of a giving opportunity of, here's what we've raised. We're at 79% of goal for the student food pantry, and we're trying to get to 1,500. And again, creating that visual for the donor goes a long way. And then, of course, the donor database. We want to be able to segment. So, for example, if I'm using the examples there on the slide, how can I segment out your donors to just email the School of Business alumni or past donors, whoever that may be, and tell them about this challenge so that they can be focused in on it. The more segmenting that we can do, the better, because we're talking directly to that donor's passions, which I know I could feel some of you shaking your heads going, my database is a hot mess right now. And so there are other ways that we can segment and work through that in a simple manner. But just know that is a question that's kind of swirling around your marketing department's head or your marketing team's head of how can we talk directly to these donors and their passions, because a giving day, we only have 24 hours. And so we've got to get to the point quickly. And so that's why it's so important. The next step that I'm talking about with my giving day clients is storytelling. I always say, what are the big things happening right now? And storytelling is so important for fundraising. Whether you as a gift officer have a story in your back pocket that you share over lunch with a prospect, or you have a story that you share in a solicitation letter, your end of the year appeal, storytelling is vital to your success because it shares impact of what your nonprofit or organization is doing. So the rule that we use in marketing uses a lot of rule of 3. And this is no different. We recommend 3 different stories to share through the day that really, it shows the impact of the day. And they're ideally stories that go with your giving opportunities or challenges. So for example, if I'm using one of the examples on the previous slide for the student food pantry, is there a story there of someone who used the food pantry and really benefited? And because of the availability of that food pantry, they were able to do XYZ. And so you can use that story while also promoting giving challenge of, see, this is what the food pantry has done for this student. Think of how much more we can do with your gift. And so then you use those 3 stories to drive all the content throughout the day. You're not having to come up with 20 different stories for 20 different social media posts. We're going to have 3, and we're going to chop up those stories, if you will, and use them throughout the entire day. And so they're quick and easy to comprehend, that people can pick them up easily on email. They can pick them up easily on social media, and they understand what we're trying to do. So then after we kind of get a game plan on the basics and storytelling, my team and I, we start to look into our marketing toolbox. And we have a lot of tools that we can use within our marketing toolbox. And so I say that with the things that I'm going to share next are just a glimpse of what we can use. We can really get creative on the opportunities and the resources we have, but this gives us a good start. So email is still incredibly important, even though you're only going to raise $76 for every 1,000 emails you send. Email is still incredibly important. The challenge is in the content and making sure you're catching people's attention. That's with any type of channel. And so we want to start targeting save the day or pre-day emails 4 to 6 weeks out, which that is very different from, say, an event. You are targeting more 90 to 120 days out when you're trying to get people to come to fundraising dinner or whatnot. For Giving Day, we tighten it up a little bit because we want to create that urgency. And we want people to know, this is a sprint campaign. We also plan for 3 day of emails, so we're not flooding people's inboxes. There's a morning, a midday, and an evening email. They're getting 3 emails from us that day, and that's it. And then a thank you email the next day. They're quick and easy reads. You can see that email on the right for a Giving Day I did during my time at Butler. Short paragraph at the top. The middle section shows our overall goal or our overall challenge that we did for that day. 1,000 gifts unlocks $35,000 in general scholarship funding. And then we had a video that was shared more about the day. I think at the time it may have been like 45 to 50 seconds. So it was really quick. And then all of that, all throughout that email, no matter where you clicked, you went to butler.edu/day of giving. So you always ended up on the Day of Giving website. But those emails, they keep the sense of urgency going, even though we're only sending 3. You're updating on challenges, you're showing the progress to goal. Using that example, the Butler email, it went out at 6 a.m. There was another email that went out at noon, and it would have said, we are at 500 gifts of the $35,000 challenge. So you're always updating and keeping people, we need your support to unlock this challenge. The other important thing, and we all know this as fundraisers, it's the personal touch. So we recommend providing email scripts for staff or volunteers to send personal emails. So yes, they're getting the mass emails that the marketing team can produce for you, or if you're producing them yourself. But then also, what's that personal email of, hey, Jay, I saw you haven't made a gift today's Day of Giving. We're really excited. Your support will, create a major impact for us to fill the food pantry for our students. Looking forward to seeing you next week at whatever event. And so it's more personal when they see your name pop up in their inbox. Social media. So social media, I always say, is the Wild West of marketing channels because algorithms are always changing. What is showing on feeds is different from what feels like one day to the next. It's not really that drastic, but my point being is content. You have to be content rich with social media on your Giving Day. And so lots of posts. But with that said, you're using those 3 pillar stories to drive the main content of your social media. So you're not creating 50 different types of posts. You're really relying on those pillar stories and then also just the general day of giving stories. So know your audiences and your platforms. Is your audience, which audience is really big on Facebook? Which audience is really big on Instagram? Don't forget LinkedIn for partners, nonprofit partners, or in higher education, LinkedIn is really big for alumni connections. TikTok giving is actually becoming very popular. The Chronicle also released an article about that recently in the past few weeks. So, what are those platforms that are where your audiences are? The other thing that we really recommend is to provide toolkits for staff, volunteers, and donors to share graphics. So the graphics that I was going to share throughout the day, I provided those to my volunteers and my staff. I said, post them on your personal feeds. There's no, I'm not keep protecting them or not allowing anyone else to see them. So make sure that you can get it out as much as possible. So you can see there on the right, we had a picture of an event on the top square, a picture of an event that some pictures were shared. There on the far right, the save the date of that particular day of giving several years ago, and it was actually an animated social media post. And then there on the bottom left is one that I really, really love. This was actually in 2020, and the president of this high school used to do walks in his neighborhood. So this was early pandemic, and it became a thing in that high school's community that this president would send out these videos, selfie style videos, while he was doing these walks, of words of encouragement, of we're getting through this together, keep going, things like that. And so we took that for their giving day. They called it GC Cares. So we took that for their GC Cares, and he was our opening video for our kickoff that morning. And so it really resonated with that audience because they had really fallen in love with this style of content from their president. And so I say all that to try to find those kind of unique elements that are already happening within your community on social media. Does your executive director do some kind of video message once a month, or does your development director do some kind of something fun on social media or whatever, or maybe your board chair? Take that content that's already existing and adapt it to Day of Giving. So for this one, we said, all right, we want you to welcome everyone to Day of Giving. We want you to create this video, and we still want you to be walking around this pond in your neighborhood doing it selfie style. And it was very well engaged and very well loved. The other thing that we can do from a social media standpoint are paid campaigns. Couple things that we can do with this is we can actually upload donor lists to Meta, to Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn to target those individuals directly. So those ads will be going directly to the feeds of those individuals, which is incredibly helpful. We can also target friends of friends. So we'll say, all the people who like our page, we want you to go find friends that they are connected to, and that match a profile of the donor that we're trying to get, and target them as well. And I usually like to start those about 4 to 6 weeks out. And just to give you an idea of paid campaigns, for another client, not a nonprofit client, just kind of a special project I've been working on, we recently did a paid campaign. We spent $150, and we had 9,000 people view the ad. So the cost is incredibly low for the amount of people who can see an ad. So if people get a little weary when I say, oh, let's do some social media ads, but just know that a few $100s can go a long way of raising the awareness of your Day of Giving. Print mail. So print mail is making a comeback. I'm just going to go ahead and put that flag in the ground. It is incredibly valuable, and it has a role in a marketing strategy. It's expensive. It's gone through this evolution of being cost effective, and then it's incredibly expensive, and now it's a little bit more cost effective. And so I always recommend that we also look into print mail. And we need to be creative. So that picture on the right, you can actually see it's a clear envelope. You can see I had flipped it over, but the backside, you can see part of the mailing label. And then on the inside of it was a pennant. That one side was the save the date for the day of giving, but the other side was just generic to Butler. And so I could hang it in my office or hang it up, what have you. And so being creative is really important. Don't spend the money on print mail to just send a letter. Because with Day of Giving, we want to create this energy and excitement and make a really big deal about it. So use your existing mailings to send the save the dates. Do you send pledge reminders once a month? On the back of those, can you add a save the date for our Day of Giving coming up in July? So use what you already have going for those existing mailings. Segmenting if needed. There were a couple of years at Butler that we segmented that only past Giving Day donors received a mailing from us. And that was just for budget numbers. So you received a mailing, and then to remind you that the next Giving Day was coming up. And part of why we wanted to be creative was reward those donors a little bit with a something they could keep. From that was Butler, that they could post on their bulletin board or what have you. So again, that target drop date is really tight. We want it more in that 3 to 4 weeks from the day, because we're trying to keep it tight so that it stays top of mind of people. So yeah, don't discount print mail as part of your Day of Giving, which seems counterintuitive because we're asking people to give online, but we're mailing them things. But it's important to have a multifaceted channel approach. You can't rely on email. Sending tons of email is clearly, as of 2023, not working as far as Giving Day. So you need email, you need social media, you need print mail. Make sure you're hitting all of the areas where your audiences may be. Oops, excuse me. So the last thing that I want to talk about from the marketing toolbox standpoint are events. The trend in fundraising right now is anti-event. I was actually just speaking with a development director last week who was like, do not even talk to me about having an event, a fundraising event. But for Day of Giving, they can be great stewardship events because it is a celebration. It builds energy and excitement for the day. It doesn't need to be heavily programmed. It is truly a stewardship event. Come, have snacks and drinks, and we're going to celebrate the challenges that we have reached. It can also create a sense of competition if you're very close to goal. So on the picture on the right, you can see the screen in the background, and we had a countdown of the day, and obviously to 0, the countdown was over. But I remember early on in that event when it started, there were a couple challenges or giving opportunities that had not reached goal, and people were taking out their phones and trying to make those gifts so that they could reach those goals. So that also creates a lot of excitement among your donors. It also gives you the opportunity to engage with donors who may not have time or want to make an online gift. You can also have laptops available for people to make gifts. We all have that board member that is impossible to get a hold of throughout the day, and then they show up at the event after hours, and you have their attention at that moment. So think about providing those opportunities. And then the other thing that I want to share is similar to the print mailings with tie into an existing mailing, tie into an existing event. Do you already have a donor stewardship event that it makes sense for? Do you have, there was a nonprofit, a local nonprofit that I ran across recently that they had an event called High Five Day, and they actually released their annual report numbers as well as kicked off a campaign. So could you combine something monotonous like annual report with the excitement of Day of Giving, and then that really creates that donor stewardship, donor cultivation. And so it doesn't have to be a major production. At Butler, they would tie it in with the basketball games and have viewing parties in the evenings with Day of Giving. And so people would gather to watch the basketball games and then also make a gift for Day of Giving. So here's just a quick rundown of day of schedule, because from a marketing standpoint, your schedule is incredibly important for that day. And there's a couple of reasons why. The ebb and flow of when people look at their email, but then also the ebb and flow of social media, not only from the aspect of when people are looking at social media, but also the algorithms of when those platforms are going to show that content to those people. So we really need to flood social media as much as possible, and then also not become annoying on people's inboxes. So we're kind of working two different strategies between email and social media. So this is just a single day schedule. I know some places have moved to a day and a half or even a 2-day giving day, but this provides just a single day. So 6 a.m. you have your kickoff story or your kickoff email with your first story and then your social media posts. And then from 6 a.m. to noon, you are retelling that story in different forms. So if you have a story about maybe a student who's received a scholarship, can you post a picture with a quote from that story as one social media post? And then another one is maybe a quick video of a professor, that student's professor, talking about that student and the impact it's made. And then maybe you have another one that is a video of the student talking about their scholarship. So you can see from one story, I just came up very quickly with 3 different social media posts. So that's what I mean by use 3 stories, but get a lot of content out of it. It is okay to reuse that content. And reuse that topic. So that's why we only want to focus on 3, and we want to do a really good job of telling those 3 stories rather than just an okay job of telling several different stories throughout that day that just confuse people and bog down our channels. And then at noon, we do a check-in on challenge updates, giving opportunity updates. We go ahead and release story 2 over email and social media. And then we follow the rest of the day, noon to 6, social media posts, 6 p.m., another email, 6 to 9, that could be when your events are happening, and then 9 p.m., your last chance email. It's really important to focus on that 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. time slot, because no matter what giving day I've been a part of, no matter the organization or type of organization, that 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. has always been slow. And so you could do a special challenge that's only available, say, from 12 to 2 p.m. or 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. That donations during that time unlocks a certain amount. You could maybe make a special announcement for your nonprofit. Do you have something big that you need to share? And you can make that announcement on Giving Day. And so really think through that 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. time. Is that when your staff is sending out emails and making calls to their portfolio, trying to encourage those gifts? Because that 12 to 6 p.m. time doesn't work out if you don't carry the momentum from that 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. into the evening, you lose a lot of steam. And so that's why I always tell people to make sure you put a lot of focus on that 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. And then from an internal standpoint with your staff, we always talk about the day of management. We jokingly call it the war room. And I chose this stock photo because it is it portrays perfectly what it feels like in the war room, with coffee everywhere and devices everywhere and people just a little bit of chaos going on. And so Day of management is incredibly important. Day of giving does not run on itself. It's not one of those that you can just set up, promote, and then check in with results throughout the day. You really need to be monitoring it. Go in a room, your fundraising, your marketing, your leadership, go in a room and really focus on it all day long. You may need to adjust email and social media content as needed. You can activate your gift officers or your volunteers to make personal phone calls or emails if gifts are lagging. At one point, with one war room that I was in, we had a graphic designer in there with us. And when we needed a graphic made quickly, he would make it for us. And so it was just really important to just keep constantly moving. So it allows you to have those live updates on social media and email. Again, creates a sense of urgency and excitement with donors. I mean, donors know when it's a scheduled post versus something that's a little bit more off the cuff. So schedule those main foundational posts and then add in the live updates throughout. Reshare your audience posts on social media throughout the day. You know, when people are using your hashtag, share that. And that gives a feel good feeling for your donors. And then it also creates an energetic atmosphere in your office. You know, make a day of it for your staff and, decorate the office, bring in lunch, do fun things for your staff on that day to get them just as excited as you are to make a big deal out of it. And then don't forget the thank you beyond the automated email that happens when you make your gift. And why I say don't forget the thank you is really share your results. Share how did the challenges go? Did you unlock that 35,000 for 1,000 gifts? People want to know. And a lot of times we think to do that for events. At the end of the event, thank you so much. We've raised $1 million. But with online giving days, a lot of times it's forgotten. And so make sure to share your results, whether it's same day or the next day. It's incredibly important so that people still feel engaged. So I want to before we get into questions, I want to make a note about Giving Tuesday because I have a lot of conversations about people say, "Oh, we'll just make our Giving Day on Giving Tuesday," and there is benefit to that. I would say that for sure. Giving Tuesday is incredibly important, and it has grown tremendously over. I think next year is year 15 for them. Last year, they raised $3.1 billion. The year prior, in 2021, I think it was 2.7 billion. So they just keep increasing year after year. But because of that, it is becoming increasingly difficult to cut through the clutter. If you are a top 3 or top 5 organization for your donors, for your donor, that individual donor, you are now competing with 3 to 5 different organizations on that day who are all asking for a Giving Tuesday gift. And so if you're coupling it with your day of giving, then you are just creating so much more risk of that donor not making a gift to your organization. So one thing that I have been working through a little bit as of late is having Giving Tuesday become a stewardship or brand awareness initiative. So a thank you day, a gratitude day. I mean, Giving Tuesday, we think of it as the public shares their gratitude or their generosity with nonprofits, but what if nonprofits share their gratitude with their donors and volunteers and whatnot? And then use a separate day to really drive the gifts and really drive your fundraising goals. And so I'm not saying don't do Giving Tuesday, excuse me. I'm just saying be aware of how difficult it can be to cut through the clutter because there is a lot of clutter on Giving Tuesday and it is really difficult to break through. All right, any questions that I can answer?
Thank you so much, Emily. We do have a number of questions here, but first of all, I just want to acknowledge there's so much content here. It was really great because it's very, very useful. Often when we have these discussions, we don't have a calendar of events. and a specific timeline for what to do and how many times to do it. And you gave us all that. So I'm grateful for that. We do have some questions that have come through, and I have some questions of my own, but I want to encourage folks, if you have questions about any of this, to go ahead and post it now so that she can tackle them as we get through. There was one comment that came in earlier. I want to make sure I get to that. It was just echoing something that you had said. So let me see if I can grab that again. And that was, let me see, from Christine, who had just said that they had done their first Giving Day postcard this year and had some fun with it. So very excited to see how things go. And I guess that's, part of what you were talking about was, of course, mail in addition to all these other things. And I don't remember you specifically talking about what type of mail. So can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, postcards are great. I love postcards for I say get creative with your mailing, and that doesn't have to be a pennant with a clear envelope. It can be a postcard, but how can you make it fun? I have an example here of one that I received this year, and it's a slide out. It's a gift box that you slide out, but they did a play on the Taylor Swift friendship bracelets. I don't know how easy that is to see. It has nothing to do with the organization, but it's obviously something that is popular right now from a societal standpoint. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's so, it really caught my eye. So don't feel like you have to have a budget to create these, but how can you get a little quirky with the design or catch people's eyes? So yeah, congratulations on your first postcard. That's awesome. I will, best of luck for your day on June 14th.
And if anybody else who's here with us live would like to share maybe something that they have sent or something they've sent maybe as part of not a giving day, but they're considering doing as a part of this kind of day of giving, we'd love to hear about that. So please do feel free to enter that in the chat. And Christine was saying thank you for that response. Rachel had asked about your thoughts on including a remittance envelope with mail pieces and how you then handle the urgency to return those in light of your day of giving.
Yeah, I don't think I've had a nonprofit that we have done a remittance envelope. We've pushed everyone to the website. Now I have had an organization that we have coupled their Giving Tuesday efforts with their end of the year appeal. And so we created a Giving Tuesday mailing as part of that campaign that included an envelope, a pledge card and an envelope. And obviously we weren't getting those on Giving Tuesday, but it was a part of that campaign. So I think if you make the marketer in me always wants people to push towards the website because you get those real analytics, but thinking through, I don't see any reason why you couldn't include that. Why not? We do it for every other campaign, and you will have donors who that's how they are used to giving. They want to write their check and put a stamp on that envelope and drop it in the mail. And so yeah, that's it kind of goes back to like old school fundraising. While it is changing, there are still elements of old school fundraising that are important and effective.
Well, in fact, Mike in the chat was saying that the Indiana Barn Foundation, I'd love to know what that is actually, sends remittance envelopes with every mailing and newsletter. And then Percy had also said we do too. So there are lots of different ways to handle these things that are creative and are tailored to your audience as well as to the organization's identity. All of that's important. I wonder also if you're thinking, you talked about segmentation, and forgive me, I don't remember when you talked about segmentation, if you're also talking about cohorts by age and whether that affects some of your communications, or how closely you tailor those to different cohorts. I can imagine in an educational institution, for example, people who are in the first 5 or 10 years out, they might respond to different kinds of messaging, not just different platforms, but different messaging, maybe from people who have just celebrated their 50th grade class. So can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, it's it's funny. I think we've always talked about age and segmenting age, but the older generations are coming on to more of a Facebook, social media acceptance of giving gifts through those, not through those platforms, but clicking off and going to a digital platform. So I haven't done a ton with age. It's been more about interest or passion, especially in higher education. Obviously, they have a lot of data about what people, what student organizations they were in, what college, school of business, school of communications, whatever. And so that has been a lot of the segmentation. But I was talking to a community foundation last week, and they have so many different programs and so many different funds. And how can we segment based on those interests? And I think there's two schools of thought with giving days. You can view it as a stewardship giving opportunity. How about that for an oxymoron? For your existing donors. It's a celebration, it's an excitement. So we really need to focus in on the segmentation. We really need to make sure we get the messaging right. But then I also have these clients who really focus on it for new donors. And so the segmentation isn't as important because we don't know who those people are yet. And so that's why we're taking a marketing approach to bring those people into the fold. And, maybe it's a $5 gift, a $10 gift, but we're trying to bring them in and learn more about our organization and be moved so much that they can make those gifts. And with new donor segmentation, it is more difficult just because you don't have the data yet on those individuals. And so I think there has to be an internal discussion between fundraising and marketing. Is our main objective of new donors? Are we trying to get those new people, or are we really trying to tighten up our existing donor base?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. I don't know if other folks who are here with us have this question in mind, but I've heard it before from others, which is that the benefit of doing a giving day, and especially and then potential risk, especially with existing donors. So I'm not sure that there is a risk, but I'm curious about your thoughts on this. If we are reaching out to our whole audience, maybe in different ways for different segments, but our whole audience for a giving day, are we potentially running the risk of cannibalizing that market for the sustaining gift at the end of the year? Or in fact, are we finding there's a lift to giving because then they double up, they give more, just like at the event you mentioned, which I love. So the thing's almost done, and then you have an event at the end of the day, and people are making sure that all those goals are met because they are there physically in the room. So what are you finding? Are you finding that there's more risk or more reward with a giving day for your existing donors?
Yeah, I've had this conversation quite a bit because a lot of it goes into the timing conversation. So when do we have this throughout the year? We don't want to have it near Giving Tuesday. Giving Tuesday is just tough all around for all of us because we're also trying to run an end of the year appeal at the same time. Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on why Giving Tuesday is at the end of the year, but do we do it at the beginning of the year where it's always gifts are lower at the beginning of the year? And so I think that has to go into consideration when you are trying to decide, do we have the risk of tapping our donor pool dry and creating too much donor fatigue? And to combat that, what I have come to a conclusion of is you have to make it so exciting and so creative and bring lots of energy to it that people really see it more as a celebration that they want to be a part of. And I will I will make my second donation for the year through this giving day, rather than I always write my check. I always make my gift with the end of the year appeal kind of thing. And so I think timing is a big consideration in it, so we don't create that donor fatigue. But then also it just has to bring a lot of energy and a lot of excitement to your organization. Otherwise, people are like, well, they're just trying to tap me again for another gift.
Well, that's an interesting point in that I guess the risk of any kind of fundraising is to be seen as either transactional or
Mm-hmm.
transformational. And
Mm-hmm.
if in the case of my own school, I know that this year, as in the past few years, they've had a giving day. It was not anywhere near Giving Tuesday, probably for the reasons you mentioned. And then they had the day and they contacted a number of us in advance and talked about the importance of communicating this on the day, maybe gave us some messages that we could
Mm-hmm.
use. And then they, of course, wanted our support that day itself.
Mm-hmm.
That leads me to a question, which is how important are brand ambassadors or
Mm-hmm.
linchpin donors or class chairs or
Yeah.
whatever it is to a successful Giving Day effort? And how, and if they are important, how soon do we need to be contacting them about
Yeah.
something that could be a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months away?
Yeah. Um, they are important. They really can make a huge difference. And it's one of those things that you can't try out for 1 year and then say, oh, this didn't work. We got to abandon it. It's definitely one of those that you have to commit to it for the long haul because it's going to pick up steam as you go. For an organization like higher education, I would even say, like, when I would have applied this to the Boy Scouts in youth development, is you have these pockets of people that have within your organization that have a vast network. So activating them to help get the word out that is more relational, rather than, oh, so and so organization has popped up in my inbox again. It is incredibly important, but you have to equip them with toolkits, information, feel good, so that they feel informed and like they can make an impact for you because they want to. That's why they're volunteering. They want to support you. And if you can make it as fun as possible for them, they'll just keep coming back each year, because they believe in your mission. They believe in the Giving Day, and can really help spread the word for you because, as I've said, like, it's just incredibly hard to cut through the clutter, even on a regular Giving Day. It's just incredibly hard to cut through the clutter. So you have to find any avenue that you can to try to connect with people. And if it's, Jay's reaching out to me to say, will you make a gift to the mastermind series, whatever, that is so much more important than, I just get an email from DonorSearch. So
And nobody's going to get that email
no,
from. Don't
that was just
worry,
an example.
we will not be soliciting donations
No.
from you after this session.
Right.
Although that's an idea, but no, we won't be doing that. Well, let me ask you a different question, which is you're doing this a lot. You're doing this a lot of different clients now too.
Mhm.
What is still exciting for you as a donor? What got you maybe in the last year that made you say, "Oh, that I'm really excited, and so I'm going to give"?
Yeah. Oh gosh, matching passions is really important, to me, which goes back to the segmentation. Obviously, I'm in the thick of it, so I kind of see all the tips and tricks that are being played out. But matching passions, I'm a mother of two young girls, and if you come at me with women's fund, girls fund, anything like that, I will melt. And so that it's all about matching passions, which you all know as fundraisers. And so, and then even just, getting that solicitation letter, that's not really a letter. It's more of a personal touch. It is really gets me to look twice, when I'm looking through things.
And speaking of a personal touch, I know you were showing a slide with your contact information. Can you pull that
Yes,
again so people
of
can see
course.
how to reach you if they want more information on this? And while you're doing that, Emily, I just want to let everybody know that you'll be receiving an email with a link to the recording of this session so you can share it with colleagues in the office, some of whom may want that little bit of instruction about when we should do what, so that you can really be prepared. You won't be doing it a week before your giving day. You'll be thinking about it 6 months or a year before your giving day. So all of that will be there. I guess a link to the slides, a link to the recording. So be on the lookout for that. If you don't see it, that means that it's gone to your spam folder. We don't want that to happen. So make sure that these emails from the series are whitelisted for you. And also, as you can see right now on the screen, you can reach Emily at evergreenstrategic.org. You can find, of course, Evergreen Strategic at her website, and you can also see her LinkedIn profile, where you can access the great stuff that she's posting there, as well as learn more about her work. Thank you so much for all of this, Emily. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed my time. And yes, feel free to reach out to me if you have any additional questions. I'm always happy to help.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I also want to encourage folks who are here with us live to join us next week. We have on Tuesday Lee Ernst, who's the CEO of JGA, on decoding nonprofit data, transforming insights into impact. That's going to be a really data-heavy, really interesting session. And on Thursday, Jay Finney and Kurt Worrell from Story Cause are going to join us to talk about listening to your donors. And they're actually going to show, or rather let us listen to some very impactful interviews that have led to some really significant gifts from mid-level donors. So it is possible to go from 0 to 60, and they're going to show us how by opening our ears more than we open our mouths. That's all on Thursday. And we also have some podcasts that are coming up that you're going to be able to listen to maybe at the end of the weekend or early next week as part of our series. I'm not going to tell you who they are, because these are really exciting people that we are very lucky to have pulled in. They're going to tell their own personal journeys. And you can catch all that at your favorite podcasting platforms, or on the DonorSearch YouTube channel, or on the DonorSearch site at donorsearch.net, where you can find us under the resources tab. And you can also give us feedback at the survey you're about to see as we close out. So until next time, thanks so much for being here. Take care. Thank you, Emily.